It's been 4 decades since the Volkswagen Golf GTI started the hot hatch ball rolling, and in that time these pocket rockets have got ever faster and more powerful. In fact, some of these machines have become so quick that it'd be more accurate to call them hyper hatches. Leading the charge of these furiously fast family hatchbacks is the Mercedes AMG A45. Recent updates have resulted in the Merc delivering the sort of on-paper performance credentials that will make many junior supercars sit up and take notice. For example, the turbocharged 2-litre 4-cylinder pumps out a head-spinning 375 brake horsepower and a thumping 475 Nm of torque. Keeping all the firepower in check is Mercedes' 4MATIC all-wheel drive system, which is mated to a quick-fire 7-speed twin-clutch gearbox. Mercedes claim 0 to 62 in 4.2 seconds and, if you have the speed limiter removed, a top speed of 168 miles an hour. Of course, this doesn't come cheap, with the A45 weighing in at just over £41,000. Yikes. However, it's now possible to get this sort of performance for less. The Ford Focus RS was hardly short of power, but a new factory-approved tuning kit from Mountune has made this fast Ford even faster. Power is up from 345 to 370 brake horsepower, while torque has swelled to a monstrous 500 Nm. Yet the price of this upgrade is just £895, meaning a Mountune Fettled Focus can be on your drive for just over £31,000. So, is the Focus the hyper hatch bargain of the decade? Or should you dig extra deep in your pockets for the AMG?
So the Mercedes AMG A45 has ruled the hyper hot hatch class for a little while now. When it comes to raw numbers, nothing comes close. And then Audi launched the RS3 and Ford brought out the Focus RS, and the Mercedes wasn't king of the hill anymore, and Mercedes thought, well, we can't have that, let's just give it some more power, and so they have. So last year, power was up to 370 brake horsepower, torque was taken to 470, and that meant, yet again, it was at the top of the tree. And the raw numbers don't really do justice to this car, because it's also got a 7-speed twin-clutch gearbox, which changes gear really quickly, and it means this thing just flies. It's rabidly fast. So putting our foot down in 5th, and it's just taking off, and unlike most turbocharged engines, it just revs and revs and revs. It's unbelievably ferociously quick. Across country, this thing is like a guided missile. You just pull a paddle, bang, another gear, and it takes off again. You can let the gearbox do the work itself, but in a car like this, you want to get as involved as you can, so these paddles do give you a little bit of engagement. And obviously, to cope with the power, we've got Mercedes' 4MATIC four-wheel drive system. Now, this isn't as clever as the Ford's unit, so it can't send as much power to the back wheels, it can't send it across the axle, and as a result, it feels more like a really, really well-sorted front-wheel drive car with lots and lots of traction. Now, it's not that the Mercedes isn't fun, because anything that goes this fast with this much poise, you're always going to enjoy, but it doesn't get under your skin, it doesn't engage. It's like a brutally effective weapon. You just point it down a road, floor the throttle, hit the brakes when you need to, turn the steering wheel when you need to, and it just seems to grip and go. So through this series of corners here, it's just utterly planted. There's a tiny bit of understeer when you push hard, but get on the throttle and the four-wheel drive system just helps dial it out, and it fires out the corners. I mean, it is ridiculously quick. Again, not much would live with this in the real world. It's so quick. The steering is decently weighted, body control is excellent. It's just a super polished machine with loads and loads of ability. Now, obviously, this ability comes at a price, and this Mercedes, before options, is about £41,000. This particular car, we've got £10,000 worth of options. So yes, you are looking at a £50,000 Mercedes A-Class, and that is, well, that's quite scary. Now, the problem is, I'm not sure this feels like a £50,000 car. Yes, it looks quite nice in here, and it certainly feels more upmarket than the Ford, but not 10 or 20,000 pounds more upmarket than the Ford. There are some cheaper plastics lower down, and in day-to-day use, the ride is actually a bit crashier than the Ford's, despite both being firm. Now, our car has an optional sports exhaust, which is actually probably better integrated than the Ford's. It doesn't sound quite as naughty, but at a cruise, you can just put the car into 7th and it settles down. It's quite quiet, but again, not much quieter than the Ford. This is a very fast, very accomplished car, but at the money, you're starting to look around at some very thoroughbred machines indeed. Well, inside the Focus here, you'd struggle to tell that this is the Mountune version because there is no clue whatsoever. No badges, it's the same interior, which is a good and a bad thing because you get these lovely chunky Recaro seats which hold your body well, some nice blue stitching, extra dials on the dashboard. You know, it lets you know this is a fast Ford in the finest fashion. It's only when you start driving that you notice the changes, and they're not big changes in fairness, with the induction kit, a remap and a badge on the boot, which we all know makes all cars go a little bit faster. We've got 370 brake horsepower, and on the overboost an incredible 510 newton meters, which, well, it's mind-blowing. I mean, a Porsche 911 Carrera doesn't have that amount of torque, and this is in a 5-door family hatchback, and as a result, well, this Focus is fast. So we're in 6th gear now, we're doing 70 miles an hour, put our foot down, and it just takes off. It's really, really quick. And as before, you get the same raucous exhaust note. This is not a car to drive if you don't want to attract attention. Even if you disregard the big spoiler and the black wheels and the deep front bumper. I mean, despite its torque advantage over the Mercedes, ultimately the Ford doesn't feel quite as fast, and that's down to one thing, and that's this. Down here we have a manual gearbox. Now that means the changes aren't anywhere near as fast as the Mercedes dual clutch unit, but it's much more involving to drive as a result. This lovely 6-speed gearbox has a snappy shift action, proper mechanical, precise, and it lends the car a feeling of engagement that's just lacking from the brutally fast but ever so slightly clinical Mercedes. And in the best tradition of fast Fords, this Focus RS is just a hoot to drive. So the 4-wheel drive system with its torque vectoring rear differential allows you some rear-wheel drive feel, and it means as you turn in, the nose bites, and then you get on the throttle and you can feel the back moving round, and it just adds to the feeling that this is a car on your side. And in these conditions today, these kind of slightly frosty, cold, icy conditions, you can cover ground at a ridiculous rate. There is not a supercar in the world that on a proper British B road, covered in wet leaves, bit of frost, could keep up with this Focus. It is unbelievably quick, and it just puts a huge grin on your face too. You're always having fun. Yes, you look like a bit of a yobbo, but really you don't mind because you're just enjoying yourself so much. Now, we can toggle between the different driver modes here. We've got Sport, Track, and the Drift mode, which sends lots of torque to the outside rear wheel, overdrives it, and leads to some drifting. It's quite brutal. We've already done some naughty things to the tyres, which means if you own one and used it a lot, you'd end up getting onto first name terms with your quick fit dealer quite quickly. So it's best just not to use it, really. It's a great party trick, but even without it, this Focus is just, well, it's quite hilarious. It's just so adjustable. The Mercedes, you sort of point it through the corner and it grips and goes, whereas with the Focus, you've just got options. Turn in, get a little bit off the throttle, it starts to come round at the back, a little bit of a bung, round it goes again. Oh, it's just, it's quite a lot of fun. But then just when you want to settle down, well, it's still a Ford Focus at the end of the day, so you can put the dampers in their softest setting, and while it's firm, it's bearable. It's got 5 seats, 5 doors, a decent sized boot. It's reasonably refined. The exhaust can get a bit boomy, but it's not intrusive. This is a supercar you can live with every day. And quite frankly, it's hilarious. I want one.
These are two very different machines. The fiery Focus is a born entertainer that's always up for a bit of fun on your favourite back road. The Mercedes isn't quite as entertaining and unlikely to raise as big a smile, but it's every bit as fast, while many owners will appreciate its more sober looks and more easygoing nature day to day. However, we'd sacrifice a bit of comfort and subtlety in favour of the fun-loving Ford. Besides, the £10,000 saving buys an awful lot of petrol. To watch a track battle between the Ford Focus RS and BMW M2, click the video on the left. To watch a review of the Mercedes C63 AMG, click the video on the right. Click on the play icon to watch our latest video, and click on our logo to subscribe.